Research has shown that people who are more agreeable tend to have worse credit scores, higher rates of bankruptcy, and lower incomes than less agreeable ones. If you clicked on this video, there's probably a good chance that you struggle with saying no to people, voicing your opinion, and standing up for yourself. And there's also a good chance that you've been categorized as nice. You look up the word nice in the dictionary and synonyms come up like pleasing, agreeable, delightful. Those all have positive connotations. And our society praises being nice. So what am I getting at here? I don't think the word nice and the word kind are synonyms. The word nice actually comes from the Latin word nescius, I believe is how you pronounce it, which means ignorant. And earlier senses of the word also included a meaning of being coy or reserved. And in my opinion, nice is only used as a compliment when you have nothing else really better to say. I would so much rather be called funny or intelligent or creative than nice. So the way I view it is nice is a combination of two slightly different meanings. There's genuinely kind and selfless, and there's also being extremely passive. And I think nice is a muddied version of the two. So when we break this down, being nice really comes down to the need for constant validation. This approval-seeking behavior actually leads to a lack of inauthenticity. And this is something that we can sense and we can see through when we're dating. And so we might see it as, oh, that person's too nice. But in reality, we can sense that they're not being their true selves. And the reason for this usually stems from somebody not having confidence in their own beliefs, so they use other people's beliefs, other people's experiences, other people's opinions to dictate every single action that they take. Which sounds extremely exhausting, because it is. And the crazy thing is, this isn't just apparent in dating, but it's also apparent in life and finances. Research has shown that people who are more agreeable tend to have worse credit scores, higher rates of bankruptcy, and lower incomes than less agreeable ones. That's crazy. So now that maybe you're convinced a bit more on the dark side of being nice, why is this relevant and why am I making this video? When I was a child, like elementary school, I wasn't nice. I was just unapologetically myself. I was kind, I was caring, but I was just mean. I didn't care what people thought. But as soon as I entered high school, I started caring a whole lot. I cared more about what I wore and what I said. I was often afraid to speak up. I found myself being manipulated by people who I thought were my friends, and I found myself in toxic relationships. I was oblivious to the root cause of all this at the time, but I think it stemmed from being nice. And I didn't realize that until I was introduced to this book called Not Nice. This video is not sponsored by the book at all. It's just something that when I read it, so much resonated with me that the book was really what instigated this huge shift in my life, to be honest. It made me come to the realization that I had pretty much become a shell of a person. I had started caring so much about what other people thought of me that their opinions took over who I was, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And I realized that the opposite of being nice isn't being mean or being bad. It's being direct and being honest and being truthful and being authentic, and I wasn't being any of those things. So when you think about why I was constantly stressed and anxious and exhausted, it was because I was constantly acting in a way that was inauthentic to myself. So after I realized the distress that being nice was causing me, I knew I needed to fix it somehow. And the book gave some suggestions like saying no more often, standing up to your coworker, speaking your opinions more, and constantly asking yourself, what do you want? What does Maddie want in this situation? And I really tried to do this, but it was so difficult, and it was mainly because of two things. Firstly, is we have to accept the risk that we might displease others by being our authentic selves. And that risk is terrifying when you're not used to making it. And the second part is knowing who my authentic self is, because I had not asked myself what I wanted probably since I was a kid. And so it was really challenging to figure that out. It's like trying to do a pull-up when you never exercise your arms. But it was something that I knew I wanted to overcome and something that I wanted to work on, so I became obsessed with self-development. I started reading more self-development books. I started listening to self-development podcasts. The Happiness Lab is a really good podcast if that's something you're interested in. But I realized that being passive means that we're acting in ways to please others, which means that we're also avoiding uncomfortable situations. Why? Because these cause anxiety. So if I could induce anxiety on myself and prove to myself that it's okay to feel uncomfortable, then I could stop acting in these ways to please other people, and I would stop being so passive. My niceness tendencies stemmed from anxiety. So if I could induce anxiety on myself and then prove myself that I could make it through it and become better because of it, then the next time that I felt those anxious feelings, maybe in a situation where I had to stand up to someone, it would be easier, in theory. So I made it my mission to do more things that scared me. If I feared something, I forced myself to do it. So day by day, I started doing more things that pushed me out of the safety of being nice. And I was constantly pushing my boundaries, starting with small things and then trying to commit myself to doing things that just scared the heck out of me. I finally moved out of my parents' house. I am deathly afraid of needles, and I got my second piercing. I pitched my business idea in front of hundreds of people. I got my first tattoo. Again, very scared of needles. I started my dream business and got accepted into a prestigious accelerator program. I went skydiving for the first time. I went scuba diving for the first time. I did a lot of things that really just scared the heck out of me. And let me tell you, I hated just about every minute of this. Every single time I did something that scared me, my palms would get all sweaty, I'd get shaky, my heart would drop to my stomach, and I would feel like I wanted to throw up. And it would happen almost every time. You'd think it gets easier, and it does mentally, but the physical response is still there. Getting my second piercing, I actually drove to the tattoo shop, sat in my car, and freaked out so bad that I ended up driving home and had to come back the next day to get the piercing because I was just so scared. And I went by myself, and then I did it and everything was okay, and the piercing, it came out cute. I like it. But every time I did something that scared me, the scary feeling never went away, but because my mindset started shifting, it did start to get a bit easier. My body started realizing that the fear I was experiencing was temporary, and I started looking forward to the rush of endorphins I would feel after completing it. And weirdly enough, I kind of started to like it. I saw each fear as a challenge to overcome, where the prize was this incredible feeling of accomplishment. And I was just constantly seeking out more ways to step outside of my comfort zone further and further than I had in the past. And if you've seen any of my latest videos, you probably know that I've spent the past 3.5 months backpacking in Australia, where I thrive on routine, and I ended up buying a one-way plane ticket with no plans to the other side of the world by myself, which was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And if you've seen any of those videos, you know that I've been doing this series called Living Limitless. And it's basically about stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the things that scare you most. And this is kind of the truth behind it all. I don't care that much about skydiving or traveling to Australia. I could have picked any extreme sport or any country to travel to. For me, doing those things was really to prove to myself that I could. And I do want to note that a lot of these activities that I mentioned are extremely privileged things that I was able to do. For the majority of them, I saved up a lot of money and was able to experience them myself. But there's other ways to face your fears that don't involve flying to another country or doing an extreme sport. You could literally go to Starbucks and ask the cashier for 10% off for absolutely no reason. You could audition for your school play. You could go up and sing karaoke at your local karaoke bar. You could go play an instrument for tips on the sidewalk, or write a stand-up comedy routine and perform it. It's less about the thing that you're actually doing and more about the feelings you experience while you're doing it. And through doing all of these things, I could feel myself start gaining confidence. And I knew this was happening because anytime a conflict would come up, I would see it as a challenge to overcome rather than crippling anxiety that would just crush me. I started to care less about what other people thought of me and started to kind of figure out what I wanted for myself. I had a lot less anxiety, way less panic attacks when I used to have them multiple times a week. But doing what I did is exhausting, mentally and physically. Putting yourself into uncomfortable situations that progressively get scarier and scarier is draining. So you know that feeling of accomplishment that I mentioned earlier, which is actually dopamine. It's something that a lot of athletes and runners and gym rats even tap into, because they start craving working out and going to the gym and doing their sport because they get this intense rush of adrenaline and dopamine every time that they do their sport. But it's also something to be aware of, because it's the same mechanism that breeds addiction. Drug addicts, adrenaline junkies, chronic gamblers are also addicts of dopamine, and that's what fuels the addiction. It's been about 4 years of me trying to progressively face my fears and things that get further and further outside my comfort zone as I start to become more comfortable with the feeling of fear. And I've already gone skydiving, moved to Australia, and camped on the most dangerous beach in the world. I'm not about to risk my life any more than I already have. And I'm not trying to become any more dependent or addicted to dopamine than I should be. But the exhaustion and induced anxiety that I felt from doing any of these activities, I would pick any day over anxiety that feels out of your control. Yes, it's exhausting, but it's the kind of exhaustion that you feel after you win a soccer game or ace a test, not the kind that crushes you. It's been a multi-year process since I read the book back in 2019, and I'm still learning and growing and improving, but I can finally say that I feel like a complete person. I feel like I, for once, have opinions. I am confident enough to stand up to people and to speak my mind. I know the things I like and the things I want, and I have a new appreciation for life and for myself. My latest videos on my channel over the past few years have pretty much been a documentation of a lot of the things I've done to achieve this. So if you've stuck around, you've been a part of my self-discovery journey without really knowing it. So now you know. I'm 24 and I'm starting to finally feel fulfilled as who I am as a person. I love art, I love traveling, I love meeting new people and inspiring people. I love holistic health and nutrition and fitness, and I love making stuff and being creative and doing makeup and doing hair, and I love making videos. My videos don't get the same engagement that they used to, but that's not why I'm here. I make videos because I love it, because it fuels my soul and it makes me happy. So if you're subscribed, you might not see as many videos of me doing crazy stuff and risking my life, because I'm kind of trying to take it slower now. But you will see videos of me doing more of the things that I love, the things that fuel me, the things that make me me, the things that stopped me from being a shell of a human, that stopped me from being taken advantage of and stopped me from being too nice. The things that made me fall in love with the person inside that shell.